All right. We have a question about disparities in our state. As I think we've done several programs here, that's part of my early mornings about different issues involving racial disparities and other disparities in our state and for our city and our region. We are becoming known as a state that has the greatest disparities in all sorts of categories, employment being one that is being talked about a lot right now. And in fact, just this morning, our Minneapolis Civil Rights Department is hosting a short half-day conference on disparities. So I'm going to ask both of you, how does working to reduce disparities, racial disparities, fit into what you want to accomplish at the state legislature? And I think Susan will be first.
The reason I'm running again, to be a voice for those left out and to fight against discrimination. I talk about facing discrimination all my life, and how is it that you know, seeing inequality, living that every day. You know, my parents used to throw us into it. My father, his idea was he was going to end racism one person at a time in the state of South Dakota. And so he drug us around from a very young age. We would go to restaurants that were segregated. I mean, it was in the early 70s. You know, there was no longer the signs on the doors that said no dogs or Indians allowed. But it was just something that, you know, you just didn't go there if you were not white. So we would stand there in line at the restaurants. My father had health insurance through his job. We would go to the private hospital, and we practically have to have a media event in order to get health care, because they would say you need to go to the public health hospital down the street. And we would go to the Black Hills and Camp in all white camping grounds. And my brother would say, he's gonna get shot, he's gonna get shot. And it's like, that was something, we did it because it wasn't confrontational. It wasn't divisive. It was my father said, we need to include people in our lives. Show them how we want to be treated. So that's my idea of, you know, racial disparity, is that my father kept telling me, we have just as much right to be here as everyone else. And we did that. We insisted that at every single day. When I got on the bus, when I got to school, I fought for an education, I fought for a better life. And that's something that I understand, that fight, and that living that inequality, and how to overcome it, to face it head on. And that's what I want to help people do, to lead by example.
I had a meeting with James Burrows in the Office of Equity and Diversity at the Minneapolis Public Schools a couple weeks ago, and I left that meeting remembering a really important thing that he told me. And he said, "I'm only interested in talking about race if we're achieving results." And I think that's really important. We like to talk about you know, the difficulty we have talking about race in our community, because there's so much diversity. But really we need to talk about it so that we're achieving results. Because right now it is unacceptable that in our public schools only 20% of our African American students are graded as achieving in our math tests, and 70% of our white students are. Now that tells me two things. First thing it tells me, those tests are not good tests. The second thing that it tells me is that it's our problem too. It's not a black community problem. It's not a white community problem. It's all of our problem that we need to address. Now, I grew up in the Minneapolis public schools. I had a wonderful experience in that school system, but we need to address that issue so that all people, regardless of their skin color, regardless of their language, can achieve. I'd actually like to take this opportunity to invite you all to an event that I'm hosting in Sabathani on December 13th. From 6 to 8 p.m. on this very topic, racial disparities, reducing the achievement and the employment gap. They are very related, of course. Education and employment go hand in hand. And it is also unacceptable that we have a 22% unemployment rate in the African American community in a city when the white rate of unemployment is about 6%. something is wrong. We need to fix it. Now, I'm not an expert on these issues. I don't have all the answers. So I want to listen to the community, and I want to hear from people how we can solve this and highlight this issue and not be known as a state that has the highest difference between racial groups in terms of educational achievement and economic achievement.